What's up, guys? Rick here with a preview for this week's President's Cup, where we will use logic, data, and reason to go through everything you need to know about this international team event for this week. First and foremost, I will be in Montreal. I'll be on site Tuesday through Sunday. I'm already hearing from those of you who will also be in attendance. Looking forward to meeting up with a handful of you guys and looking forward to getting to my first President's Cup. It should be an absolute blast. So without any further ado, let's jump right into this and let's start with the golf course, Royal Montreal. There are 45 holes of golf at Royal Montreal. This is just a stellar venue, and it's the blue course that they're going to play. And what I did here on my website, RickRunGood.com, which is basically all you'll see from this point moving forward, is I took any previous data that we've had, whether it was Canadian Opens, I think there's actually been a couple of senior events, not the lot of the greatest data in the world, but I combined that with some of the data that I've derived from the satellite imagery, which I'll show you here in a second, and was able to put together, I don't want to say it's a mock model. I mean, it's very much a real model, but it is not necessarily as strong of data as we would normally get on a venue being played over and over and over again. So I'll be very short here before I show you what the visuals look like. And what you're going to see, driving distance, not really a correlator to success. And you'll see why in a second. There are a lot of spots, a lot of dog legs, a lot of hazards and bunkers that will hem the big drivers in, and it will reward a little bit more accuracy. And of course, there's more to it with the international team being able to set this golf course up however they want. So that's part one. And then part two is you do see a lot of wedges in. It's not a particularly long golf course, and especially with the dog legs, if you can play to a specific spot, depending on how much you choose to bite off, there are a lot of places that you can come in with short clubs. So that's what we're going for early here. Now, let me show you what some of the satellite imagery looks like. And what you're going to see often, especially on the second nine, is dog legs that are just annoying enough. Here is number two, in which you've got a situation where there are not only fairway bunkers on the inside edge of the dog leg, which I always love, but on the outside edge as well. To carry all of this, it's going to be 293 yards. That's not a huge problem for a lot of these guys. They're hitting it to a 34-yard wide fairway. This is about as generous as it gets in some of these situations, but even still, that margin of error, most professional golfers play a 50-yard wide dispersion with their driver at 300 yards. So think about that. 50 yards wide going to a 34-yard fairway in which you are expecting the rough to be thick because the international team gets to set this up for themselves. And then, of course, the fairway bunkers as well. I will get out there on Tuesday and confirm all of this. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at RickRunGood, my newsletter as well. Everything you need is linked in the description so that you can see that. Here's another example on number 4. The carry to remove all of the trouble is 322 yards. Not, obviously it'll be wind dependent, weather dependent, all that stuff, but probably not a ton of guys in this field who have a 322 carry available to them on hole number 4 at Royal Montreal, right? And if they do, they're going to a fairway that's 30 yards wide. It gets ratcheted up even more on the back nine. The back nine, I think, is going to be phenomenal. Let's just go to number 10 here. I'll show you 10 and I'll show you 14. 10 is, it's going to be awesome when all of these holes are getting decided. There is so much risk reward on the back. So here's number 10. It is a very short par 4, 450 yards, no biggie. Left-hand side all the way up is water. So what I love about this is at 300 yards, yes, it is 57 yards wide, but 2 yards off the fairway to the right, tree trouble. 2 yards off the fairway to the left, water. And the farther you go, the more narrow it becomes. Very cool hole here. And then 14, if you need me, I'll be posted up on 14 because this to me is about the best hole that we've got out here. Because it's going to come at a time in these matches where a one hole swing in either direction will be huge. It is a 372-yard par 4. It is nothing. However, once you start getting over 200 yards, this fairway narrows from 46 yards to 32 yards to 20 yards at 290, and there is water protecting the entire left-hand side of this hole. There is rough and bunkers protecting and trees protecting the right side of this hole. There will be guys who have to pull driver because of the position of their match. I'm also wondering, if you're nursing a 1-hole lead, a 2-hole lead, do you just go 8-iron into this thing? Like it is, and then the angle of the green and the way that it looks like, it's hard to tell from the satellite imagery. So I'll get out there, but it looks like there's a pretty significant drop off on the left-hand side of this fairway that actually, or a left-hand side of the green that funnels down towards the water. It does look like it's thick rough, so it might get caught up there, but you do not want to be down there. You can kind of tell by the shadows. It looks like that is pretty steep. I'll have to confirm that on Tuesday, but this is going to be such a cool hole in terms of match play. So anyway, long story short, I could go through all of these holes, but 15 is another good one, right? How much do you want to bite off? Water everywhere. You can go 280 to a 50-yard wide fairway, or you can try to push it down even farther and it gets more troublesome. So I think it is going to really hem in some of the big drivers. And if you were a short, accurate driver, I think you're in a great spot here, which on paper is what the international team or the European team in Ryder Cups usually wants. This time around, I'm not so positive about that. I'm just going to go to the cheat sheet here, and I can do this a lot of different ways. I'll write about it in my newsletter. The international team actually has some of the longer and least accurate drivers of the golf ball. Benny On, Minwoo Lee, Taylor Pendrith, all top 5 in this competition in distance, and all struggle to hit a lot of fairways. And then Wyndham Clark is here as well. Sahith for the US squad, but the international team is not necessarily made up of dink and dunkers, guys that are going to play out of the fairway a lot. The US team actually rounds out their roster with guys like Brian Harman, with guys like Russell Henley that are that type of golfer, short, accurate off the tee. So I'm still probably more bullish on the international team relative to their winning odds, plus 250. I've already bet that. Obviously, the Americans are still favorites here. I think there's a couple of things that could go in the favor of the international squad. I've actually bet them to win this. I think that Mike Weir did a really good job with roster construction, depending on how they roll out the team. There's a lot of stuff here. It's a home game for them, but the course makeup and the team makeup don't necessarily mesh as perfectly for Royal Montreal as, when they picked this venue, they thought that they were going to be able to put together that type of team. But long story short, this is what we've got going on for Royal Montreal right now. Now, I want to remind you about the format here. So the format, obviously, it's an international team event, and it is a little bit different than the Ryder Cup. So the President's Cup is played over 4 days: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The Ryder Cup is more of a sprint in which it is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So the Ryder Cup plays 2 sessions on Friday, 2 sessions on Saturday, and then Sunday singles. The President's Cup only plays 1 session on Thursday, 1 session on Friday. Then they go to 2 sessions on Saturday and then round out with Sunday singles. The other thing is, there are 5 matches on day 1 instead of 4 to the Ryder Cup. There are 5 matches on day 2 instead of 4 for the Ryder Cup or session 2. And then it goes to 4 matches in rounds 3 and 4, and then Sunday singles. What that all means is there are only 2 golfers who are going to be sitting out on each team in each session, which is 2 fewer than the Ryder Cup. So the Ryder Cup is a lot more, you really want to kind of wait until the pairings and the tee times and stuff come out, because you want to make sure that you're getting golfers who have a chance to play all 5 matches. I think that's less relevant in a President's Cup because almost every golfer, 10 out of 12 on every team are playing in each session. And then, of course, when you get to Sunday singles, everyone is playing. Or excuse me, I should say in the first two sessions, because it is the same as the Ryder Cup when you go to rounds 3 and 4. That's on Saturday. They will begin on Thursday. Round 1, session 1 will be 4-ball, which is a best ball format. Everybody plays their own golf ball. You take the best score from your team. On Friday, they're playing 4-sums, which is alternate shot. A much more difficult, much more important in terms of what your partnership is than in 4-ball. And then on Saturday, they're going to play 1 session of each, 4-ball, then 4-sums, and then Sunday singles. So you have to kind of get an idea of who is likely to play a lot of matches. And you first start, with the American team. You look at Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, Colin Morikawa to an extent. So the reason that you have to kind of like Scotty and Xander, or excuse me, we'll start with Xander here, is that Xander has a built-in partner. He is going to play alternate shot with Patrick Cantlay in both of those sessions. The question is, and then he's going to play singles, of course. So the question is going to be, is he going to play both 4-ball sessions, both best ball sessions? I think the obvious answer is yes. He's the second best player in the world, but Xander's never played all 5 sessions. He's played 2 President's Cups, 2 Ryder Cups. So 4 team events, and he has never played in all 5 sessions. I don't know if that is him asking for a session off for rest. I don't know if it is just the way it's worked out, but it's a little surprising to see that he's never gone all 5. Scotty Scheffler will start with Sam Burns. Seemingly that would be a good start. And he's likely, as the number 1 player in the world, with the extra day of rest built in, he's likely to play all 5. On the international team, the obvious guys to play often are, I think, Adam Scott, Hideki Matsuyama, Tom Kim, and Sung J M. I think that they have a lot more that they're going to lean on. Certainly a little bit of a concern around Adam Scott now being 44 years old, but he has played in more matches than anyone in President's Cup history by a mile. He often has played all 5 sessions. The fact that you get the extra day of rest here, it's not as big of a stretch, especially if you're not even playing all 18 holes. You might end up only playing, close to 72 over 4 days. Anyway, maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you get my point. Hideki Matsuyama would be the other logical one, although I guess there is some level of concern around I don't want to call it a WD, but, he sits out because of, the back that flares up or the wrist that flares up. I don't think that is a huge concern, and I think when Hideki's ready to go, he's ready to go. And then the other 2 are Sung J M and Tom Kim, 2 young guys who play a lot of golf, who are very valuable to this team in both formats, who are immensely pairable with their teammates. These would be the short list of guys that I would look for to play as many matches as possible. Now, once I start going through the salaries, I will point out some of the values and some of the other guys that they could play with, but this is just a little bit of an early primer. So what's going to happen now is, if you haven't noticed yet, I've recorded this before the salaries have come out. It is Sunday. I'm about to get on the road. So I'm recording this before salaries have come out. You are going to hear from future Rick when salaries come out for the rest of this video, and he is going to take you directly to the cheat sheet.
Wow. Thanks, Past Rick. And you're absolutely right. I am going to start you here on the cheat sheet at RickRunGood.com. And the salaries have just dropped. And DraftKings is doing their cup format for this week. So instead of picking 6 golfers all identical to go into your lineup, you're going to have to designate 1 captain in every single one of these lineups. And that captain will be 1.5 times more expensive, but it'll also earn you 1.5 times the number of points. So that's the way to differentiate, get a bunch of unique lineups so that not everyone is playing the same golfers. Let's look through this. I think there's a lot of things to consider here. And when you've got Scotty Scheffler at 11,600 and Xander Schauffele at 10,800, we've already talked about this a little bit. Scotty Scheffler is the best player in the world. Yes, it's true that his President's Cup history is not great. He was 0-3-1, I believe, here in 2022. His Ryder Cup wasn't awesome, but listen, he's the number one player in the world. He's probably going to get run out there a lot. I also don't think though that he is always a 5-session player. I think it might depend a little bit on what Sam Burns does. I think you work a little bit of rest in there. Scotty Scheffler is not and this is too, this works for him. He's not like a cold-blooded Michael Jordan, give me the ball, I got to go out there 5 times. He's like, yeah, let's let Sam Burns play or whatever, right? So I think you're almost certainly going to get 4 sessions. I'm not sure you get 5. The same goes for Xander Schauffele. However, I think that in this format, at $10,800, so a little bit cheaper, I do think that Xander is probably more valuable than Scotty is. He has such a great floor in in foursomes playing with Patrick Cantlay, and the way that they have dominated in that format. You almost chalk them up for 1 expected point in those 2 sessions. Maybe they go out and get both. Then you still have best ball, which is the best player in the world, one of the best players in the world. Then you get Sunday singles. So I think if you really only made me roll with one of these guys, it's probably Xander Schauffele in this format, but not going to beat you up too bad if you do end up going with Scotty Scheffler at the top and opting to spend for those guys. The 9K range is kind of interesting here. Patrick Cantlay could be a fairly sneaky option. I think with Colin Morikawa, who won the Raw leaderboard at the Tour Championship and was playing great all summer long, with Hideki Matsuyama, who's likely to get run out in so many sessions for the international team, it leaves Patrick Cantlay in kind of an awkward position. His season was good, not great. There's probably 100 guys on the PGA Tour that would have traded seasons with Cantlay despite him not finding a victory. He had a bunch of top 5, top 10 finishes along the way. We know he's going to get that run with Xander. We saw what he can do in a match play situation where at the Ryder Cup in Rome is what I'm referring to, where the ability to get scorching hot with the putter, to go out and, these are sprints. These are not marathons. They are sprints. So if you can get heated up for 12 or 14 holes, anybody can beat anyone. And I am wondering if Cantlay is not one of these guys who's guaranteed 4 matches and might end up getting 5 because of that strong run that he's going to get with Xander. Now, the back is always an issue. He's going to have to get the back going. Is he going to play a lot of holes? Because this is spread out over 4 days, I think it's much more likely that Cantlay does play a lot. So right at the top of the board, he seems like he might be the best value in terms of price tag, but also I don't expect a lot of people to run him out there. And if you stacked, could you get a situation where you could play both Cantlay and Xander? You might have to captain somebody else, which we can talk about in a little bit. But I think that that's an interesting path to getting both of those guys. Now, you'll live and die with that group, but it's a pretty good group to live and die with. The 8K range, we talked about this a lot. I think these are all fairly priced guys. Sung J M is probably going to play a lot. Sam Burns is at least going to get first crack with Scotty Scheffler, I assume, and he's been playing great golf. And then Tom Kim, I think this is probably one of the better fits for him. We are going to get to the course, the custom model here in just a little bit. But if you start looking at the trends, and let me load this here. I just loaded in all the data, so I want to make sure all the salaries are coming in as we're talking about this. Here's Tom Kim, who is playing over his 100-round baseline in the last 35 rounds. His tee to green play has been nearly 3 shots, or excuse me, 3/4 of a shot, 2/3 of a shot per round better in his last 35 than to his 100-round baseline. And he's not really putting as well. So when you look at guys that have this massive breakout ability, the guy that will, if they can continue to hit it from tee to green as they are, and if they can get back to their putting baseline, Brian Harman and Tom Kim are the 2 big outliers here. The guys that are potentially in line for a massive, massive bounce back. And that's what I like to see. So I think Tom Kim in this $8,000 range, and he's probably going to be pretty popular because of what we saw at the President's Cup in 2022. I think that he is immensely valuable in this format. We've already talked about how he pairs so well with so many different golfers that I would not be afraid of even captaining, is that the right word? Tom Kim. You'd pay $12,000 for him and you would get 1.5 times his production on a course that sets up well. He is now going to absolutely be a leader on this President's Cup team, or on this international team. I think there's a lot of really good things there. The 7K range is only Wyndham Clark, Sahith Theegala, and Adam Scott. These are three guys that do not drive it accurately. And it's three guys that are in the top 10 of driving distance in this field. So you are getting guys that are not necessarily the greatest fits for this golf course. And I think that when you have a debutant like Sahith, and guys that are as volatile as they are, they will be hot hand guys, right? So if they are winning, if they're playing well, I think they continue to get run out. If they struggle, if they lose a match, I think maybe we might pump the brakes a little bit. I think Clark and Sahith are two guys that might be difficult to pair with in foursomes, alternate shot, because you don't want to be constantly sticking your opponent in a very tricky situation. Also, both of them have struggled on approach in the last 36 rounds. They're both in outside the top 20 in this 20-person field. In fact, Wyndham Clark is dead last in strokes gained approach over the last 36 rounds. So you really need to understand the risk-reward relationship between these two golfers specifically on a fairly deep United States team with a skill set that doesn't set up very well for this golf course. So I think you need to take on a little bit of risk with these guys because the reward is so high, but it is definitely a high risk situation. Adam Scott, I'm a little bit more bullish on. He's shown throughout the entirety of 2024 that he is good enough to contend at a lot of different golf courses. He is striking it better than he has in a long time. The putter, even though he lost 4.5 strokes at the BMW PGA Championship at Wentworth, he is putting beautifully ever since the US Open and even going a little bit farther back than that. And he is going to be a steward on this team. It's not inconceivable to see him paired with young guys. It's not inconceivable to see him get a mega pairing like Hideki Matsuyama. We've seen those two guys play together before. It's not inconceivable to see him go with Jason Day or Minwoo Lee or anybody like that, right? So I think there's a really good opportunity that Scott, almost no matter what, he could go 0-5. I think Adam Scott is getting the call in all 5 sessions, as he has for basically every single President's Cup of his career. I think one time he only played in 4 matches. He has played more matches in the President's Cup than the entire U.S. team combined. It's ridiculous. And I don't think that is going to stop now in what has been the best year of his career in quite some time. The 6K range. So now we're starting to get to some situations where there's more question marks. Max Homa, Brian Harman, Siwoo Kim. I'm happily running out Siwoo Kim here. Would not even be opposed to captaining Siwoo Kim as a kind of a value captain option. He gained another 8 strokes ball striking at Wentworth last week. If you are talking about golfers who can sprint, who can hold their breath, who can just get scorching hot for 12 holes and steal matches, it's Siwoo. He played really well at the last President's Cup. I think he ended up being the top point scorer. Don't quote me on that. Might have been KH Lee. Siwoo, they were both up there, right? Cam Davis was up there like 2.5, 3 points, something like that. And he could do that again, right? He can play with Tom Kim. He can play with Sung Jae Im. He can play with a lot of different guys and he can get scorching hot. And especially when you start comparing it to the rest of this 6K range, I do think that Brian Harman, because of his accuracy off the tee, is set up for a bounce back. We've seen that. I worry about a lot of aspects of Brian Harman's game, and I'm cautious there. And then barring something completely changing for Max Homa, I cannot really find a way to endorse this. The game has been brutal from tee to green. It has been brutal with the putter, and it's been brutal for a long time. I love that he's going to be a dog. I hope he shoves this right down my throat. I know he's going to be a dog, but this is a really tough spot to be in, and he's almost unplayable in foursomes, right? You can't have your partner losing 9 strokes off the tee, 6.5 strokes off the tee, another 3 but you cannot have it. He's probably going to play both best ball sessions. He's definitely going to play singles, of course. I think Max Homa is 2 or 3 matches, unless he just shows something that is completely different than what we have seen. The 5K range. Some decent value here. Actually, I think there's a lot of value in the 4K range. The 5K range, listen, I think you're going to get a lot of Corey Connors this week. He's Canadian. I think if I were Mike Weir, I would run out Corey Connors and Taylor Pendrith, or Corey Connors and probably Mackenzie Hughes in match number 1 on Thursday. That's exactly what I would do. He's been very Corey Connors-esque, where he hasn't lost strokes ball striking in basically a year. And then the putter has actually been fairly good since the Canadian Open. He's had a couple of moments in which he's gained 3, 4, 5, 6 strokes putting, and then over his last 5, he's basically been a neutral putter, which is fine. If we get a 0 putting week out of Corey Connors this week, he's going to be very, very successful. $5,600 for a guy who is going to get the benefit of the doubt. He's got a couple of really good partnerships on a golf course that really should help his skill set. I think Corey Connors is almost a must play at 5,600, and he's got revenge on the mind. Listen, he and Taylor Pendrith were miserable at Quail Hollow. They were 0-8. They were the only 2 golfers to not get a single half a point for their team, and it was both Canadians. They add a 3rd Canadian to the mix this time. They are back at home. They have got to be just foaming at the mouth to get back out there. Russell Henley at $5,000 is criminally underpriced. The only problem with this is you don't know how much he is going to play on this team. It's a really good golf course for him. He's been playing great golf all year. I think he is easily one of the most valuable players in this format. You could pair him with anybody. He putts well, first in wins, all that stuff. I just don't know how much he's going to play. That's the biggest question mark. I wouldn't be surprised if he played 4 times. I wouldn't be surprised if he played twice, right? It's just a really kind of awkward scenario for Russell. I hope he gets out there. I mean, he's very, very valuable to his team, but it is hard to see a path to him playing a predictable amount is the way that I'll put it. And then the 4K range here. Listen, I feel like I've been saying listen a lot. Mackenzie Hughes at 4,800. I believe he's going to play a lot. Minwoo Lee at 4,400. This is not a good golf course for him. It's not. But when you need electricity, when you need somebody who can go nuts for 9 holes at a time, and also I could see I could see like a Jason Day pairing. I could see an Adam Scott pairing. I could see a variety of different paths to Minwoo getting a really good partner in this format and just running hot for a couple of days or a couple of matches to get him more matches. I do not think that is out of the realm of possibilities at all. And then the golfer who is going to be the most owned golfer, the golfer who is going to be probably the most captained golfer because of his cheap price, is Taylor Pendrith. This is an embarrassment for him to be this cheap. Not only has he been one of the better players, I mean, if you go let's go to the power rankings here for the last 36 rounds, Taylor Pendrith is the 12th best player in this field. And I know what you're saying, like, well, it's middle of the pack. Yeah, it's middle of the pack, and he's the second cheapest golfer here. So obviously something is wrong. You know, Taylor Pendrith has been better than Patrick Cantlay over the last 36 rounds. Taylor Pendrith has a win this year. Taylor Pendrith has a lot of really good finishes. I agree that it's not the perfect golf course for him, but he's been great on second shots. He's been great with the putter. You can see his stat map over here on the left-hand side. That is a really high upside type of profile. 4,200 as a Canadian. He might just run with all he might play 5 times. Taylor Pendrith might play 5 times. He played 4 times in the process of getting his butt whooped at Quail Hollow. They let him run out there catch 4 L's. Imagine if he plays well this week. They're going to definitely run him out there 5 times, aren't they? So he's going to be the most popular golfer down here. I absolutely see it. The guys that are kind of on the outside looking in for me, Christian Bezuidenhout is going to be a tough play. I don't know if he has a great partner on that international squad. He is more expensive than guys that I like more, like Mackenzie Hughes and even Keegan Bradley, Minwoo, Taylor Pendrith. And then Ben On, while you're getting a really good price on him, he's $4,000. I think I'd rather pay up a couple $100 for, again, someone who probably has a better path to the top of the board or to a partnership. I think Ben On and Christian Bezuidenhout could be the two guys that play the least on the international squad. Unless one of the Canadians is just gonna, say, oh, I'm, Mackenzie Hughes, like, I'll take one for the team. I don't need to play as much. I don't see that happening. I think Benyon and Bezuidenhout are probably the two that play the least. And then for the Americans, kind of up in the air, I could see, I would play Keegan a lot, quite honestly, but I could see this kind of transitional, hey, Keegan, you were supposed to be a assistant captain. Now you're going to be a player. We'll just play you a couple times. You can get the Kahana behind the scene. Like if the U.S. is in a blowout spot, Keegan might not play that much. And then the other guy that might not play that much for the Americans, I'm afraid it's Russell Henley. I think it probably should be Brian Harman, but they've got so many good guys, it'll depend on how hot they get. Let's run a model here. So all of this is loaded in, and I want to be fairly recent. I want to go last 20 rounds. This is a sprint, okay? So because it is a sprint, I'm also going to go straight to strokes gain distribution and put 20 on guys who can gain 4 or more strokes and 20 for guys who can gain 5 or more strokes. I want upside. Then what I'm also going to do is this. I'm also going to put... I need driving accuracy. So let's do 15 on accuracy and 5 on distance. We'll make our own little strokes gained off the tee there. Then we are going to go strokes gained approach, last 24 for 20. And then I'm going to do bonus putting, which I love, right? Bonus putting is, do you make all your greens, all your putts inside of 5 feet? And then how many do you make outside of 20? And that's it. So this should be a very high upside model that we have here. Scotty number 1, Xander number 2, Colin Morikawa number 3. Probably no surprises. Tom Kim is 4 and he's $8,000. Again, this is a good golf course for Tom Kim. This is a good skill set requirement for Tom Kim. He has a lot of paths to playing 5 matches. Cantlay is 5th. So that's why I think Cantlay, and this is not even taking into account anything regarding the partnership. So Cantlay model's 5th, and he's going to have basically the best partnership out here. That's pretty valuable. Jason Day is 6th. That's a little bit surprising. Getting some good boosts in accuracy, getting some good high-end bonus putting, 4+, 5+. He's getting a lot of good stuff there. He loses a bit on distance. He loses a bit on approach. Adam Scott is 7. Hideki is 8. Sungjae is 9. There's Russell Henley, 10th. Russell Henley is my 10th ranked golfer, and he's $5,000. I guess while we're here, just to show you the rest of this, Burns at 11, Finau at 12, Sahith at 13, Harman at 14. This all sounds kind of right. Wyndham at 15, Pendrith at 16. Pendrith at 16 and being the second most expensive is still, or second least expensive is still a really good value. Keegan is 17, Bezuidenhout is 18. I'm really surprised to see Corey Connors is 19. Doesn't see, the thing is with him, his accuracy, he does miss fairways, but he misses them by very little. So if I change that to distance from edge of fairway, he would probably get a little bit of a boost. No upside though for Connors, probably because the putting is also an issue. Yeah, I could see that. Siwoo is 20th, again, kind of surprising there. And then Ben On, Mackenzie Hughes, Max Homa, and Minwoo Lee. Yeah, Minwoo's dead last, even behind Max Homa. It's tough. It's tough. So interesting little model. We will talk a lot more about roster construction, who to captain, how popular these guys are going to be. We'll basically know the potential pairings. So I think they're going to announce the pairings 4 Eastern on Wednesday. I think I just got the email about it for the pressers. But at least we'll know what the practice groups are well before then. So we'll have an idea of who's going to play together by the time we get to the live chat on Wednesday. Okay. Au revoir. Au revoir. Is that it? I will see you guys in Montreal, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Best of luck this week.